Well, Coach Strain, appreciate you coming on to the game day Zoomcast. It's not a Zoom call, not a podcast. We're going to kind of combine them, make a hybrid. But no, I appreciate you being on. Head coach at Metro, but obviously that's a stop after many years of coaching along the way at Southern Illinois, University of Northern Colorado. So, if you don't mind, could you give a background, kind of what got you to Metro?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just, when I got done playing in the minor leagues, it was like right in the middle of summer. I hurt my shoulder. I was trying to try to keep playing, and it just wasn't going to happen. I had a teaching degree. Knew I wanted to coach. My whole family's been coaches, and didn't know what I was going to do. But so started calling around. It was a little bit late to get a teaching job, and so started calling around to some of the college coaches that had recruited me, and thought, maybe I get a chance to get into college, maybe get my master's, see how it goes for a couple of years. And see if I want to do that. And if not, I'll have my master's, and hopefully that helps me get a teaching job and a coaching job. And so I started calling around. Mike Anderson, Colorado guy from up in Northern Colorado. He'd recruited me as an assistant at Nebraska, and then he was the head coach at the time. And so I called him. He gave me my first opportunity. So I was a grad assistant for him, got my master's, but just really enjoyed college coaching. And that led to getting a chance to go to Northern Colorado to coach right as they had kind of transition to Division One. So it was a great opportunity for me to basically just be thrown into it and be like, here you go.
Yeah.
Go recruit. This is what you do. So, but that was awesome. I was there for 3 years, and then that led an opportunity at Southern Illinois University in the Missouri Valley Conference, which is, one of the best mid-major conferences in the country. So that was a great challenge, and get to recruit in a different area, and really enjoyed my time there. And my wife's from Illinois, but I always wanted to be a head coach. Metro is the one place I would come back to Colorado for. I just, with the new facility they built a few years before me taking over the job, and just being in downtown Denver. My grandpa was the basketball coach there at one time. So there's a lot of family history there, and just, love the city. Never thought I'd get a chance to come back, but when Coach Otis said he was going to be an administrator, and the job was open, I kind of thought he was joking with it. Just, he's only a few years older than me. I'm like, why would you leave here? But, he went into our administration. He really does a great job helping us out, and had an opportunity to interview for it. And fortunately, they gave me the job, and, this is my 5th year, and enjoyed every minute of being a head coach, and being back in Denver for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like they made the right decision with a 34-10 best overall record for Metro last year. You guys are coming off a really strong season, and obviously making a big impact in the RMAC. And definitely have seen from a distance the Metro just kind of skyrocket into a program that is going to be a top contender in the RMAC year after year, and that's got to be part of the culture that you're creating and the recruiting that you're doing. So, if you don't mind, can you kind of give us a little bit of background on what it really means to attend a 4-year NCAA institution? We've talked about junior college baseball, but really kind of diving into Division II baseball, which is its own beast in itself. It's not D1, it's not junior college. What does it look like to coach and to recruit at the D2 level? And really, what's the difference between D2 baseball and maybe Division I baseball?
Yeah, sure. Those are good questions. I mean, yeah, it's every level of baseball is unique. Like you said, junior college requirements are different than Division III. Division III is different than Division II, and then obviously Division I has some different rules too. So yeah, I mean, I spent majority of my time in the Division I level, and then coming to Division II level, I had to learn a lot of the new rules. Some are similar. As far as the academic requirements, it's a little bit we have a little bit easier academic requirements, I guess you would say. With the Division I level and the Division II level, you have to have 16 core courses. I think that's an important piece for student athletes that are in high school, starting off from their freshman year on, that they know that hopefully their guidance counselor at their school is getting them in the right high school classes so that they can pass those core courses. Because no matter how good a player you are, if you don't get the right requirements to get into an NCAA school, you're not going to be able to play. So it's going to limit your options. So for both Division I and Division II, you have to have 16 core courses. That's, the most important thing. The difference is at Division II school, you have to have a minimum GPA of a 2.2. At Division I level, it's 2.3. So it's not a whole lot of difference, but there is a difference with that. And then there's a sliding scale with your academics, with your SAT or your ACT. Obviously, the better your GPA is, the lower your SAT or ACT score can be. With COVID coming in, there was some changes in that where the NCAA stopped requiring those test scores for a little while. Some universities are starting to drop the SAT and the ACT. So that kind of can affect a little bit about your academic when you're applying. But as far as the NCAA is required, those are probably the biggest things, that you pass your core courses, you have a certain GPA. And if you do those things, then you're going to be, academically eligible to go to either a 4-year institution. As far as recruiting to the 4-year institution, I mean, we're looking for true student athletes. I mean, they need to be able to handle the academic rigors that is of a college, campus. I mean, fortunately, a lot of the places we recruit from, they're good high schools, and their high schools prepare those kids for getting into college. But when you get here, it's different. There's challenges to being able to handle the workload that a student athlete has. I mean, there's a lot of requirements on our guys for, their academics, taking care of their academics during the year. I think one of the unique things in Division II is, you aren't eligible for the entire year. It's semester based. So once you get into college, you need to pass a minimum of 9, units per semester. And you have to pass 24 units in a full year, which is critical. Where our guys usually taking 12 to 15 units per semester. So hopefully they're passing all those. I tell them all the time, it's like, if you're going to take the class, you might as well pass them. Either we're paying for them or you're paying for them. But you need to pass those classes. So, not only do you have to, pass throughout your high school career, but once you get in there, you need to, take care of business when you're here. So, I think that's when we go out and recruit kids, first and foremost, we look at them athletically. That's usually the first thing that we can see. If we think that they're good enough to have an opportunity to play for us, then we go to the academic side and see how are their academics. Are they good enough to do that? Then the third piece of that too is with, Division I, Division II, whatever it may be, we don't have full scholarships. Being able to get some academic scholarships is a big deal because it can add to, the help that you can get towards the financial cost of college. And college costs continue to rise, no matter, and that's not going to stop. I mean, I got 3 kids, they're 10, 7, and 5, and who knows what it's going to cost, when they go to college. But, that's why the academic piece is such a big deal. And if we can stack some athletic money and some academic money for a student athlete, that makes, our package to them a little bit more enticing to come to our program.
Absolutely. And you talked about kind of the scholarship. We touched on that at your school specifically. I know it varies school to school, but what kind of scholarship money and scholarships in general for the baseball program are you guys looking at? And when you're out there looking at baseball players in an environment, maybe a tournament or a showcase, how does an athlete stand out to you? How are they recruitable or potential recruits for the Metro baseball program?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the second part of that question is, what are we looking for, what they do to stand out? And I think, every coach will tell you you're looking for kids that play hard. But that is probably first and foremost for me. I mean, I think if you asked any of our players, I'm pretty laid back most of the time during practice and more intense during the games, but I expect a lot of them. I expect them to play extremely hard. And, that's one of the things that I notice. If a kid's out there and he's playing hard and getting after and trying to help his team win, that's going to benefit him for a lot of coaches seeing them play. It depends, where you're at, a lot of different showcases. You're playing on travel teams, you're playing on your high school teams. Either way, no matter what you're doing, obviously you're trying to showcase yourself, but the number one thing is you're trying to help whatever team you're playing for win. And if you're doing the little things and playing hard and getting after it, those are the things that are going to stand out for us as we move forward. And then as far as the first part of that question is scholarships is, in Division I, they have 11.7 that they can spread out. There's only 27 student athletes that can get those scholarships, and they can only have 35 players on their roster. Now with COVID, that's changed a little bit because kids have gotten their year back. So they have a certain amount of guys, I think it's like 5 that have an extra year. They don't count technically. So they can technically be at 40 right now, and that'll slowly, go back to 35. For Division II, we don't have a roster limit. You'll see a lot of rosters that have really big numbers. And a lot of that is some of the Division II schools, having more student athletes help the enrollment and help, generate, funds for the program as well. So, at Metro, we don't necessarily have a roster limit, but, right now we're at about 40 players. Last year we were at 38. So we're probably going to be in that upper 30 range more times than not. And in Division II baseball, we only have 9 scholarships is the max. Now, I will say that even at the Division I level and the Division II level, not everybody has those scholarships. Not everybody's at 11.7 in Division I, and not everybody's at 9 at Division II. I would say a majority of Division II programs are not at 9. So, that's why it's so important for us to, spread our money the best that we can, try to find some academic money if we can for them or any other scholarship opportunities they have. But a lot of our guys know that if they come, we're going to do as much as we possibly can for them. But they're also going to be paying for some of their school as well. That's just part of being a baseball player. But it's a challenge to try to spread that money out between all our guys, and not all our guys are on scholarship. There are some guys that choose to come and may not be on scholarship, but I don't really choose who's playing depending on scholarship money. I play the best players, and we've had players that have played here this year and in the past that are either on smaller scholarships or not on scholarship, but they've earned the right to play. And then, hopefully I try to, reward them, as they go throughout their career if they, aren't a whole lot.
No, that makes sense. And, being a Colorado-based club, and obviously you guys being here in Colorado, I think a lot of parents and players are often interested in knowing, what environment do they need to be in to be seen by a Metro or to be seen by a college program? Is the showcase route better, the tournaments better, high school, spring baseball? Where do you guys tend to send your coaches and yourself in the recruiting process? Is there certain areas that you might look to identify players at that, Colorado players should be kind of gearing towards, or, is there places to avoid? Where do you guys spend your time looking at players?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything. Coming here, it's been a little bit different than I was at Southern Illinois. Here, just because I'm from Colorado, we have probably 70% of our players are from Colorado. I know a lot of the high school coaches, so I still talk to quite a few of the high school coaches. But the tough part about the high school season is we're playing. And for Colorado kids, because there isn't a ton of colleges other than our RMAC schools and a few Division I's and the junior colleges, Colorado's a tough place to get to. As far as when I was at Southern Illinois, it would be hard for me if I was coming to see a kid during the spring to come all the way out here and see him while I'm playing 3 games on the weekend and playing on Tuesdays. So it's changed a little bit in the national landscape as, a lot of the kids are being recruited a little bit more out of the travel programs and the club teams, just because it's not laziness out of the college coaches, but they can go to a tournament and they can see a bunch of kids, some of the best kids from every high school program playing, on a travel team. And so you can go see a team that maybe has 15 players on it or whatever, and you see them all play at one place. Whereas a high school team, they may have 1 or 2 kids, if they're really good, maybe more, that can play at the college level. And so at the Division I level, that's why you don't see a ton of Division I coaches come to high school games, just because of the fact that they're playing, and it's really difficult and expensive to try to get to just see one kid play on a specific field. So I still think they're both important. I mean, the high school season, I think, is great. It gives you a chance to try to win a state championship, and there's a lot of high school coaches that are doing a tremendous job. But as far as, seeing the college kids and probably getting more visual recruiting from college coaches, it's going to be in the summer and probably in the fall with some of the travel teams, just because we can go to a big tournament and we can knock out a lot of different a lot of different teams at the same time. And it allows us to see players when we're not playing. And as far as showcases, with camps and those types of things, I think those are important too. They become really important at the Division II level, because we don't have the same budgets that some of the Division I programs have, where, we can be out all summer. When I was at Southern Illinois, I mean, I was gone pretty much every single weekend, Thursday through Sunday, seeing games. I may get a weekend here or there off, but it was tough. I mean, I was on the road all the time. I mean, I don't know what we spent, but that's a lot of money to put 2 and 3 coaches on, and I wasn't traveling an hour away. I mean, I was traveling quite a ways and being gone in hotels and stuff. So Division II level, we can't do that. We can kind of pick our spots to try to go places and go to some of the bigger tournaments. But that's why it's important that we have showcases on our field. We try to do some different ones with some outside companies. We have our own prospect camps too. But if kids are interested in a certain program, it's really important for them to try to go and get in front of those coaches. Whether they're recruiting you or they're not recruiting you, if you go to their camp and you play well and you produce, I think that's something that those coaches are definitely going to follow you after that. We've recruited some of our best players that come to showcases for us. Maybe we've seen once, twice. We've invited them to the camp. They've come. We've got to talk with them, be around them, kind of see what they're like. And we've recruited kids strictly out of those camps. I think sometimes parents think that, camps are only generating money for the program or the coaches or the company. And yeah, that's part of it. There's no doubt. I mean, we use our camps to try to supplement my assistant coaches' salaries, my salary, all those types of things. But it's also a place for us to see athletes on our field in front of us. We get to work with them, and we sign kids every year out of those camps. And that's why it's been a really big part. But I think it's a nucleus of everything. Yeah, definitely the travel programs, are a big deal, because you get to see a lot of different kids, in one event, rather than just having to go to one specific game to see maybe 1 or 2 players.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you touched on a little bit. You got three little ones, and I'm sure they're going to reach that age. And I'm not sure if they're baseball players or not. Hopefully, they are. But
I hope so.
yeah, but at some point, what would be your best advice to a parent that maybe is just starting this process with their son or daughter, for that matter? Is it best to kind of start honing in on some of these positions in tournaments and teams and showcases, in their freshman year? What's kind of the best time to start that process to become a quote unquote recruitable player that's going to be an impressive a teammate that's going to join a college program at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I think, recruiting's changed a lot since I started. It seemed to be getting earlier and earlier. I saw a tweet not too long ago. It's kind of a joke that only in college baseball can a coach be recruiting a 14-year-old player and be coaching a 24-year-old player, which is true in the Division I level, because you got all these COVID kids. We have kids that are 23, 24 on our team. That's normal right now. And then at the Division I level, they're recruiting a lot of, kids that are freshmen in high school, and I think for them, it's so competitive. You're trying to get an advantage and recruit kids. And you kind of, obviously, if they're 15 years old, you got to kind of dream on them a little bit because they're a long ways away from you, but that's kind of how it's changed. So, for me at the Division II level, we recruit kids a lot later. Our kids, most of the kids that I'm seeing are, I see some guys that are in their freshman, sophomore years at some of the tournaments we host at our facility. We definitely have a list of those guys, but as we go, most of the guys we're going to recruit is going to be a little bit later into their, junior summer, into their senior fall. And then obviously we'll recruit at the junior college level. But advice I would give the parents is one, you want your kids out there playing in a good program, whether it's your high school program. A lot of that's dependent on where you live, but hopefully you got a good high school program. And there's a lot of great ones in our state that are doing a really good job. And then finding a good travel program that's going to meet the needs of those kids. There's a lot of good ones out there in our state, but, getting on a good program that's going to challenge them and get to play against the best. I think that's important. There's, if you stay in Colorado, you get to play some good teams, but if you get the opportunity, especially as you get into your sophomore and junior year, to go out and play against some of the best players in the country, that can challenge you and show you, hey, where am I at? Where am I at as a player? What do I need to work on? I think that's important because sometimes when we don't play against the best, we don't really realize just how many good players there are in the country. And so I think that's an important piece too, is that, as a parent, that you find a good program that you trust, that you can afford to do, and try to get out there and play as much as you can. I know guys are playing in the summer, they're playing in the fall, they're playing in the spring, and I think it's getting in the right program that understands that there's some wear and tear, that they're not overdoing it, but they're also challenging the kids, because if you're going to get into college, we play a 50-game schedule. Division II level, Division I, they play 56 games. So you're playing a lot of games, and definitely playing in the summer tournaments and the fall tournaments are preparing you to be ready to play a lot of baseball when you get to college.
No, that definitely makes sense. Now let's shift gears a little bit. Let's say you've recruited a player, it's a good fit. He shows up as a freshman at Metro. What's kind of a day in the life of a Metro baseball player? And maybe you can take us through just a brief snapshot of what the off season may look like for you guys. And then now you guys are full into a season in the RMAC, a week away from an RMAC tournament. What's the daily life and grind look like for a college athlete in your program?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think sometimes our freshmen have no clue what they're getting into. I can tell them, but they don't really realize, the junior college guys have a little bit better idea because there's really no rules at junior college. They just play all the time. But, at the Division II level and the Division I level, Division III level, at the NCAA has rules. There's restrictions on how much we can practice during our non-championship segment. So our non-championship segment for us would be the fall. And so when we get here in the fall, school starts. Usually you can't practice for the first week to 10 days, something like that, to let kids get acclimated to, their classes. And then once we get started, we usually go into about a 2 to 3 week period of what we call individuals. We can be in smaller groups. We can only do 4 hours of baseball out of the 8 hours that they give us per week. So the other 4 hours need to be, weights, conditioning, meetings, stuff like that we utilize for that. And then they have to have 2 days off a week. So usually what we do when we get into that time period is we'll go 4 days a week for an hour. The pitchers will be with the pitching coach. The hitters will be with me, and the offensive staff will be doing, some of the days will be offensive stuff. Some of the days will be defensive stuff. And really it's just trying to get them back going again. A lot of them probably had summer ball, probably taking a few weeks off. We're trying to slowly get them back going to get ready for when we get into more of our team stuff in the fall. So With that, most of the guys, if you look at a normal week, we'll lift probably 3 days a week. Our position players last year, they lifted in the mornings before classes started for an hour, 3 days a week. Our pitchers, they lifted in the afternoons. And then guys go to class, from 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning till 1 or 2. I ask our guys to be done about before 2 o'clock so we can start practice at 2 o'clock. And then they'll come in for their individual, hour long practice, and they kind of come and go. I mean, us coaches were out there for longer, but that's kind of what that non-championship segment looks like. It's 8 hours a week. You're supposed to give them 2 days. You have to give them 2 days off a week. We usually give them 3 days a week. We don't have school on Fridays, which is kind of nice. So they get kind of a 3-day weekend for those first few weeks, and then we get into our championship. It's not your season where you can play games. We are allowed to play 3 games where in the past, we've played junior colleges. But once you get into that, we get 15 hours a week. And with that, those can all be baseball if you want them to be. We usually utilize about 13 hours for baseball, and then we go down to 2 hours a week lifting. So they'll go back to just lifting 2 days a week, and then the rest of them will be used for baseball. And then with that, it's very similar. You lift in the morning, you got class during the day, and usually practice starts about 2 o'clock. And most days we go 2 to 5, somewhere in that range, depending on, what days. Some may be shorter, some may be longer. And we'll do that through Monday through Thursday. And then on Fridays, since we don't have school, we'll practice in the morning. So they usually get kind of a 3-day weekend during that period. So it's not too bad of a schedule as far as that goes, kind of in our fall. And we do that. You basically have a 45-day window where if you're taking 2 days off a week, you can probably get 32, 33 practices in during that time period. And usually we do that, mid to late September, through October is kind of how that goes. And then we go back into that same, non-championship segment where we're back to that 8 hours, and we do that really up until finals start. And then kind of the tough part for baseball coaches is, from finals until January 10th, when we start team practice, they're on their own. Hopefully they're doing what they need to do. But once they get back in January 10th, with us starting the first week of February with games, we only get about 3 weeks with our guys to get them ready. So it's really important that they're ready for that. And then when you get in the spring season, it's pretty tough. You're taking, 4 to 5 classes, 12 to 15 units. We get 20 hours a week with that, with only 1 day off a week. We take Mondays off. But they're still in class. Our guys really don't have days off. They have days off from baseball, but it's 7 days a week, pretty much from January 10th till hopefully we're playing into June. So it's several months of some really, heavy days, and really time management, being able to handle that, just mentally, physically is tough. But we'll practice Tuesday through Thursday. We play 4 game sets on the weekends, usually 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. Take Monday off, and it's like Groundhog Day. It comes right back around. So it's really important that our guys, handle those things, but it's a challenge, but I think, we've got tutors, we've got study hall that guys are in. I'm trying to stay on top of their academics, but kids can definitely fall through the cracks if they're not doing a good job time management and not taking care of things they need to take care of.
Yeah, for sure. And you touched on that real quickly, but obviously you have your baseball coaches, but there's probably a pretty wide range of support staff, from academic to athletic trainers and everybody else that's kind of helping that process move along the way as well.
Yeah, no doubt. You kind of mentioned earlier that, hopefully we continue the success that we're having, but none of that would happen without all the other, people that are helping us out in our administration. My assistant coaches, I have 3 assistant coaches, but we also have, our athletic director. We have other associate athletic directors in charge of different aspects of the department and trying to help our student athletes. That's what everybody's here for, whether the coaches, administrators, our trainers, the tutors, any of those people are the ones that are helping us do it. So we have, a staff that, helps our guys. We have, a person that's designated to try to help our student athletes with their academics. They have their academic advisor in whatever major program they're in as well. But then we have an athletic advisor that works with them to try to get them, make sure they're on the right track to graduate and staying on top of stuff, grade checks, all those types of things. And, and then like you mentioned, we have, a full-time strength coach with her assistants that do a great job with our student athletes. That's the nice part. I don't have to do, baseball and weights and conditioning, all that type of stuff. We have people that are specifically trained to do that. And then we have a training staff that does a great job that, we're paired up with doctors as well, that if something does happen, unfortunately, they can come in and see our guys. They usually come once or twice a week. And then obviously if they need to go get testing and stuff like that and see them, then, we're able to get that taken care of for them. So, it's a full staff of people that are all working to try to give our athletes the best possible experience that they can. And to try to keep them, going on the field, but also keep them going, academically, to make sure that they're doing the right things, that they're on the right progress to be able to graduate when they leave here.
Absolutely. No, it takes everyone, I'm sure, pulling together to kind of make that ship sail.
Yep.
Kind of fast forward a little bit now to present day, and obviously a lot has changed over the last couple of years with COVID, and the transfer portal, I think, is a hot topic that a lot of parents here and players here. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit, what the current landscape looks like in college baseball, college recruiting, and how COVID and the transfer portal may have changed things over the last couple of years to where, now maybe there's more movement than there ever has been before?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a challenge. I mean, COVID was obviously difficult in so many ways across the country, across the world, but it's made a huge impact on college athletics. So much has changed in there because, a lot of these kids who are in spring sports, which what, baseball obviously is, that we had to deal with, is that a lot of kids got an extra year back. You had a whole class of kids that, if they wanted to, get to come back. And so all of a sudden now there's a lot more quality, players that are available in roster. If you have a roster limit at your university, it's making it so we have less opportunities for kids coming in. And so, it's been a challenge, I'm sure, on the recruiting side, for you guys or for parents trying to understand, what opportunities are there going to be. And then you bring in the portal. Everybody's always complained that student athletes should be able to transfer if they want to. There have been limitations on that. You could transfer from Division I to Division II. You could go down a level per se, but you couldn't go up, or you couldn't go Division I to Division I for a long time period. And they made that rule because, back when I was playing, I transferred from Division I to Division I. I mean, I transferred from North Carolina State to University of Nevada. And back then you could do that. But back then, it was kind of like the Wild West. I mean, you would see college coaches at summer games recruiting players off of teams, which wasn't legal at the time, but that's part of the deal. And so they put up that rule to try to stop that. And then there's been, a lot of pushback and complaining about that coaches can leave, but players can't. And so the NCAA kind of just put their hands up and said, okay, we're going to put this portal together. There's some stipulations with the portal. You got to be academically eligible when you leave that school. You have to put in writing that you want to go into the portal by a certain date. And once you do that, it's kind of open free agency where you're on a portal. You used to have to get permission from another school if somebody was getting released to talk to that player. Now, once they get put in the portal, I can just go on the website and, we go on it every week. And you just take a look at, go to baseball, go to, Division I, Division II, Division III, whatever it may be. And you can see how many student athletes there are, what school they're from, what state are they from. And then you can contact them without even having to call the program that they went to. Now, most coaches will probably call that program, kind of see, why did he leave? Is he leaving on his own? Was it maybe he just wanted a better opportunity, or was he a really good player and just decided that he wanted to go in the portal and try to see what else is out there? The tough part about the portal is, for student athletes, is it's a lot easier getting in the portal than it's getting out of the portal right now because of COVID, because there's so many good players. I don't know what baseball's exact numbers are right now, but, there's kids going in the portal, and that number is only going to increase once we get to the end of these seasons. Basketball just is going through it right now. And, I think at one point there was 1,400 student athletes in the portal. 1,200 of them had been on scholarship, and only about 200 of them had found a place. So it's difficult for kids to go in the portal, and, some get out and some find a program maybe a better suit for them. But a lot of kids, unfortunately, are going in there and finding out, well, I don't have a place to go now. And that's tough. And with these numbers, with how many opportunities that us as coaches have to not only recruit the class of high school kids coming in, the junior college kids coming in, but now kids going into the portal, that there's a lot of opportunities for us to go to try to find good players. And one of the things, some kids go into the portal, they may graduate from a program in a school. They've been there for an extended period of time, and maybe they want to get a master's degree, and that the school that they're at doesn't have that master's degree. And so they can move on and maybe go find another school like that. But, I would say this to anybody that's, once you get to a program, if you like that program and you're there and you're having a chance to play and you feel like it's a good place for you, you need to hold on to that thing as tight as you can. Because it's just really difficult, because I see so many kids out there, and I get emails and phone calls all the time that our kids are looking for a place to play, and there's just not a ton of opportunities for kids. But with that said, we're always looking for good players. and we're going out there recruiting. I'm still signing high school kids. I'm signing kids from, junior colleges. And so, there's opportunities out there. It's just that, you really need to be doing the things right to get yourself, those opportunities. And like I mentioned earlier, the academics is such a big piece. If you're not taking care of your academics, and you may be somebody that's maybe borderline that maybe they would have taken in the past, but they can find a kid that's a similar athlete to you that's not going to be an academic headache for them, then they're probably going to go that route, just because that's become a big piece of it too. So COVID has made a challenge, just that there's so many extra players available. And then the transfer portal with so many kids transferring in and out, and really us as coaches, we really don't know. I'm hoping we won't lose guys that transfer from our program, whether they're playing or they're not playing. But sometimes kids are, a little bit more want instant, gratification, want to play now. And, in this landscape that we have, they may have to wait a little bit. You may have to go into a program and work your tail off and keep getting better and watching the guys in front of you do it, because they may have 22, 23, 24-year-old kids on the team that are grown men that are playing. And you may have to work yourself into that a little bit more than you may have in the past.
No, that makes sense. And I want to be cognizant of your time. I've touched on quite a bit up to this point. And I want to kind of end it on, if you're talking to a high school player right now, what can they do to become a proactive in the recruiting process? So what's some things? Obviously, we talked about academics. Is there anything that you would tell a high school junior right now that he or she should do to be recruitable by any program, and really kind of a bit of advice to the high school athlete right now?
Yeah, I think the number one thing, that when people ask me that question is, if you have a schools that you are interested in, try to get in touch with those coaches. I think the biggest thing is sending a personal email or phone call, it's to their office. They're probably going to respond quicker to the email just because of the time and how many phone calls we get during the day. But, I think an email is the first correspondence, and then hopefully a phone call, will follow that at some point. But, making sure it's a personal email. I think sometimes people just send out, a mass email to all the coaches. It's the same email. And it could be a situation where they just change the name, and you can tell. We've been doing this forever, sometimes like they change the font, the school and stuff. So, but if one is written to me, I try to do the very best that I can to respond to them. If they've written a personal email, maybe a personal thing about our program, that they're paying attention to what we're doing, those types of things, and then a video of some sort. It doesn't have to be the greatest video on the planet, but if there's a short video that highlights some of the things that they're doing, that gives us an idea that I can look at the email, I can read the email, know about this kid, I can watch the video pretty quickly and be able to see, whether there's somebody that we're going to be interested in. Most college coaches have been doing this long enough that they can watch a minute video and have a pretty good idea of what they're looking at. If this is somebody that they want to follow up with, maybe invite them to their camp, maybe get some more information from them. But I think that's an important piece of it, to be proactive, because we're not just going to, we're working our tails off, but if, we're not going to know about kids all the time unless they just stand out at a tournament. But if we have some information about them, they're going to be at a tournament we're going to be at, we'll take the time to make sure that we see them and go watch them play. But I think those are the biggest things, is trying to be proactive. And like I mentioned it too, is, if you're interested in a certain school, go to that school's camp if they have one. That's, if it's on their facility, if their coaches are going to be at a certain camp that you're going to be at, go to that camp, make sure you email them, let them know, hey, I'm going to be at this camp. This is my name, all those types of things. That really helps us, because we get, a ton of these emails, tons of calls, and, we're trying to weave through all of this. And that's just the best way, is to be proactive and make it personal to the coach, that lets you know that you're not just sending out to everybody, but you are truly interested in their program.
I think that's really important information. I think at the end of the day, the athlete needs to know a little bit about themselves as well, and have someone realistically evaluate them and give them an idea of where could they play, and then maybe start from there and start to identify some schools. And, if Metro's in that fit, then a personal email and a follow-up is a good course of action to kind of get on your all's radar. And like you mentioned, there's no better place to be seen than putting yourself in the environment of a program that you might be a good fit for. So that's huge. And I think it's a awesome advice to any parent or athlete out there, is to do a little homework on their own, and maybe somebody, there's so many coaches out there that are quality evaluators, maybe take some information from them to start the process, and then be proactive in the approach. Because, like you had mentioned, you guys are out there at tournaments and there's hundreds of games going on, and it's not realistic to think you're going to see every player. So to be able to put yourself in that environment can be, truly beneficial for sure. So
yeah, no doubt.
Well, hey, I appreciate you being on. I know you're a busy man, and best of luck with Colorado Christian this week, and as you guys move into the RMAC tournament, and keep propelling Metro forward, because you guys are doing a great job over there.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and we're going to keep rolling. And then once the season, gets done, we'll be out there seeing you guys play and going out and seeing kids and just continue to recruit, because it doesn't matter how good we coach and do things we do. If we don't have good players, we're not going to win a whole lot of games. So this recruiting process is really big for us. It's the most important part of what I do, during the off season. So I'm looking forward to coming out and seeing guys play this summer.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you, Coach, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks.